Kia ora whanau, welcome back, Wellness Wednesday with me. I'm Troy from Black Dog Survivors and Support Riders, and welcome to the Black Dog Lounge. Tonight we're taking a look at stress. We're going to try and understand how our body responds in those stressful situations, and we're going to discover some simple but really important things we can do to help ourselves manage stress much more effectively so that we can continue to contribute to our community in a positive and healthy way. So stick around. So first of all, it's really important to understand that stress is a natural biological response to potentially dangerous situations, and this response has evolved in humans and other animals over the course of evolution, and it's generally speaking kept us pretty safe up to this point in time. What really takes place? Well, first of all, in a stressful situation, a part of our brain responds to that situation, sending a signal down to a part of our body. So what's that part of the brain called? It's called the hypothalamus, and the signal that it sends is kind of like an emergency response signal, and that signal goes down to our adrenal gland, which is located just at the top of our kidney. The adrenal gland's responsibility is to release or to flood the body with stress hormones. Two of those stress hormones, adrenaline and cortisol, play the main role in helping keep us safe. Adrenaline increases our heart rate, it elevates our blood pressure and increases our overall energy supply. Cortisol, which is the primary stress response hormone, increases sugar in the bloodstream, enhances our brain's ability to use those sugars effectively, and increases the availability of repair hormones. But cortisol also curbs some of the non-essential functions within our body system. So it kind of, in a way, it shuts down some of those systems. And some of those systems, for example, our digestive system, our reproductive system, and more importantly, our own immune system. This complex emergency response system also sends signals to our brain, controlling things like our motivation, our fear, and our mood. But when we are constantly under stress and those hormone levels are constantly elevated, that's when it leads to physical and emotional health problems for us. And it's really important we understand what some of those health problems could be. So we have things like increased anxiety, an increased susceptibility to depression and other mood disorders. We also have interruptions to our sleep pattern and our eating patterns. And ongoing stress actually decreases our immune system's ability to respond and to fight any oncoming infections or flu symptoms and the likes. We may experience those tension headaches, as well as we increase our risk or susceptibility to heart disease and heart problems. Our sleep, as we mentioned earlier, can be disturbed, and the associated health effects of insomnia and lack of sleep are pretty well documented, and I can testify to that firsthand as well. And we may also experience periods where we struggle to remember things, and or we have lapses in concentration, which can be potentially dangerous particularly if we're operating large machinery or driving a lot. Also really important to note is that how we respond to stress is very, very different for everybody. So how I respond to stress is probably going to be quite different to how you respond to stress, and this can come down to things like our genetic makeups and also some of our life experiences. We all have led very, very different lives, and we've all got very, very different experiences in life. And I guess the most important thing is, how are we handling stress? So when I think of overall health and well-being, as you know, I like to think in terms of wharitapa whā. So making sure I'm looking after my physical health and well-being is really, really important. Making sure I'm getting a really well-balanced diet, and I'm looking after my rest and relaxation regime pretty staunchly in those stressful situations. I'm also making sure that my taha whānau, or my family and friends and my community connections, remain really, really strong, and being able to reach out to a friend and just offload or decompress after a stressful event can be very, very healing in those situations. So it's a really, really good one. But if you don't have anyone close by that you feel you can talk to, then you can reach out to the likes of Lifeline or 1737 and talk to some trained counsellors about what's going on for you. Letting it out in some way kind of is sort of it's just a nice and a really healthy way of dealing with stress. Making sure that we're looking after our taha wairua, or our spiritual health and well-being, also seems to play a really healthy role in reducing the long-term effects of ongoing stress. I like to think of taha wairua, or our spiritual health and well-being, as moments in time where I can reflect on what's taken place. And quite often I like to do that reflection whilst I'm actively relaxing and engaged in some form of hobby or activity that kind of takes me out of this headspace and allows me the opportunity to focus on something entirely different. And of course we have taha hininaro, our mental health and well-being, and making sure that we're allowing time for our brain, our mental health to return to normal. And that might be through switching off through the use of some healing music, or some meditative practice. But please don't turn to drugs and alcohol to help you deal with stress. It's been well proven that drugs and alcohol, whilst they may give us some temporary relief from stress, what it's actually doing is it's not helping our bodies and our minds cope in the long term with stress. And the other thing that they recommend, and I can attest to this, drinking a lot of coffee, I'm probably guilty of that, and smoking a lot also leads to those stress hormones remaining in our body for far too long, far longer than what's actually healthy and necessary for us. So the payoff to learning how to manage stress is that we're able to live a much fuller and healthier life. Today we talked a little bit about stress. We had a look at how the hypothalamus sends that emergency response signal down to our adrenal gland. It's our adrenal gland's responsibility to flood the body with those stress hormones to help keep us safe during those potentially dangerous or threatening situations. We also took a look at how adrenaline and cortisol reacts in the body, or how our body reacts to those two stress hormones. And we looked at some simple tips to help prevent stress from becoming an ongoing and possibly dangerous health situation for you in the long term. Stick around, because next week we're going to be having a look at mental health triggers, and right at the end of next week we're going to be comparing what's the difference between everyday stress and our mental health triggers, and I'm going to share with you why I think it's really important that we understand that difference. So thanks for tuning in, thanks for sticking around. It's been really great talking to you all. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit that like button, drop a comment in the comments box, because it's really going to help me understand what it is you're looking for out of this channel. And if you haven't already, think about subscribing. So until next week, stay healthy, stay well. If you're riding, keep safe out there, okay? And we'll catch you next week.